I'd like to call to order this regular council meeting in the town of Saugeen Shores. And the first order of business, again, is a declaration of pecuniary interest, and I'll remind you of your responsibility to do so. Yes, Councilor Madison.
I'd like to declare a pecuniary interest for section 5.2.1.
5.2.1. Okay.
As the originator of the committee.
Okay.
Shindig.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. 5.2.1. 5.2. Okay. Okay. Thank you. No additions, deletions, or amendments to the agenda. So the first, next item on the agenda is adoption of minutes, and it's the regular council meeting of April the 25th. Excuse me. And it's been moved by Deputy Mayor Charbonneau, seconded by Councillor Madison, that Council adopt the minutes of the Council meeting of April the 25th, 2016 as presented. Any errors or omissions? All in favour? Opposed, if any? That's carried. The next item is Committee of the Whole minutes. It's been moved by Councillor Minaj, seconded by Councillor Grace, that Council note and file the minutes of the Committee of the Whole meeting of April the 25th, 2016 as presented. Any errors or omissions? Not. All in favour? That's carried. The next item on the agenda is report of the Committee of the Whole, and it's a general government report of April the 25th, 2016, and it's been moved by Councillor Madison, seconded by Councillor Mike Myatt, that Council of the Town of Saugeen Shores adopts the general government report dated April the 25th, 2016, recommending that the transfer to or from reserves for the specific purposes outlined in the tables attached to the Treasurer's report dated April the 25th, 2016 be approved for the 2015 year end, and that the Treasurer's Statement of Development Charge Reserve activity be received. And 2, that Council declare the property described as Town Plot Lot 21, South Huron, surplus to the municipality's needs. The Council direct staff to submit an application to the County of Bruce to rezone the subject lands. And further, that Council direct staff to retain the services of AWS Environmental Consulting Limited to complete a natural heritage impact study for the subject lands. Questions or comments? All in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried. Next item is Environmental Services and Transportation Report. And it's, sorry, wait to Mr. Okay. It's been moved by Councillor Grace, seconded by Councillor Dave Mayette, that Council of the Town of Saugeen Shores adopts the Environmental Services and Transportation Report dated April the 25th, 2016, recommending that permission be granted to the Southampton Summer Shindig Committee to host the Colored 5 kilometer fun run, 500-foot water slide, fish fry, and dance. Further, that the following road closures be approved for the time stated on August 13th, 2016. Clarendon Street, Victoria Street to Carlisle Street from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. Grenville Street, Clarendon Street to Spence Street from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Spence Street, Gray Street to Anglesia Street from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. Victoria Street, Palmerston Street to Union Lane from 6 a.m. to 5 p.m. High Street, Albert Street to Gray Street from 6 a.m. to 5 p.m. That permission be granted to the Port Elgin BIA to host the Farm to Table Dinner and Dance on Friday, August the 12th, 2016. Further, that the following road closures be approved from 3 p.m. to 12 a.m. Green Street, Godrich Street to Waterloo Street. Any questions or comments to this report? Vice Deputy Mayor Huber.
I intend to support the motion, but I just had a question. The Shindig situation, we haven't agreed upon procedure related to waivers of fees and support for nonprofits, but we don't I don't believe have a definition of nonprofit in our documents. I would suggest that would be a good thing for us to work towards. But I've had questions from people. Some of the information that got out there was about how, in particular on Clarendon Street, that there would be the intersections would be staffed so that if say an ambulance had to get through, that there would be a way for that to happen. And it appeared as though the police were going to be doing that, which makes sense, I guess. But there were questions about, who's going to pay for that. And then I also had a question about the water slide. Great idea. Should be lots of fun. But again, it's when will we receive information about it's treated water that's going to be used in that, and how is all of that being worked out in terms of how we either know what we're donating to the project, which that might be the way that we go, or how we're going to realize some of that to be considered appropriately. So, I'm hoping that that's coming later.
I suspect, and Jane, you can comment on this if you want, but I suspect they'll be applying for an occasion, what we call special occasions.
Special occasions application, special events application.
Special events
Yeah,
application,
I would
yes.
suspect
And so that is all of that information that is circulated to the police and to everybody, to all of the departments for their comments, and comes back here for a recommendation. So I suspect that's when it is that you'll get all that information out. Okay. Any further comments? All in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried. If you can get there. The next item is a planning and development report, and so it's been moved by Councillor Mike Myatt, seconded by Councillor Don Matheson, that Council of the Town of Saugeen Shores adopts the planning and development report dated April the 25th, 2016, recommending that Council retain legal counsel to defend the decision of the Committee of Adjustment on application A55-15, 48-243 Summerhill Road. Comments? All in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried. So there's a notice of motion there for you. It'll appear on the next agenda. I'm not going to read it, but it is to do with expansion of natural gas. The next item then is bylaws, and we have a few this evening, 14. So it's been moved by Deputy Mayor Charbonneau, seconded by Councillor Madison, that bylaw 50-2016, being a bylaw to authorize the entering into of an agreement with the Southampton Snowmobile Club, is hereby read a first, second, and third time, and finally passed and sealed this 9th day of May 2016. Questions or comments? The bylaw or motion? If not, all in favor? Opposed, if any? That is carried. The next item is assumption of works on 3M 205, and it's been moved by Councillor Mike Myatt, seconded by Councillor Madison, that bylaw 51-2016, being a bylaw for the assumption of works on plan of subdivision 3M-205, is hereby read a first, second, and third time, and finally passed and sealed this 9th day of May 2016. Comments to this one? Questions? All in favor? Opposed, if any? That is carried. The next item is authorize an agreement with the Chesley Street Docking Committee, and it's been moved by Councillor Madison. Oh, sorry. Missed one. Sorry, this one is assumption of 209, 3M 209. And it's been moved by Councillor Madison and seconded by Deputy Mayor Charbonneau. The bylaw 52-2016, being a bylaw for the assumption of works on plan of subdivision 3M-209, is hereby read a first, second, and third time, and finally passed and sealed this 9th day of May 2016. Any questions or comments to this one? If not, all in favor? Opposed, if any? That is carried. Getting a little mixed up here. Too much paper. Thanks, Linda. This one then is the Chesley Street Docking Agreement. And it's been moved by Councillor Madison, seconded by Councillor Mike Myatt, that bylaw 53-2016, being a bylaw to authorize an agreement with the Chesley Street Docking Committee, is hereby read a first, second, and third time, and finally passed and sealed this 9th day of May 2016. Any questions or comments to this motion or bylaw? All in favor then? Opposed, if any? That is carried. This one, the next one is the Southampton Yacht Club. And it's been moved by Councillor Minaj, seconded by Councillor Grace, that bylaw 54-2016, being a bylaw to authorize an agreement with the Southampton Yacht Club, is hereby read a first, second, and third time, and finally passed and sealed this 9th day of May 2016. Questions or comments to this motion or bylaw? Not, all in favor. Opposed, if any? That is carried. The next one is assumption of Pegasus Trail on Plan 3M 205 as a public highway. Excuse me. Moved by Councillor Dave Mayette, second by Councillor Grace, that bylaw 55-2016, being a bylaw to assume Pegasus Trail on Plan 3M205 into the municipal road system as public highway for public use, is hereby read a first, second, and third time, and finally passed and sealed this 9th day of May 2016. Any questions or comments to that? Not, all in favor? Opposed, if any, that's carried. Next is the assumption of Carter Drive. Been moved by Councillor Dave Mayette, seconded by Councillor Grace, that bylaw 56-2016, being a bylaw to assume Carter Drive on Plan 3M-209 into the municipal road system as public highway for public use, is hereby read a first, second, and third time, and finally passed and sealed this 9th day of May 2016. Any questions or comments to this motion or bylaw? All in favor? Opposed, if any, that's carried. The next item is a official plan amendment number 7, and it has to do with Child Care Early Years Act update, and it's been moved by Councillor Huber, seconded by Councillor Minaj, that bylaw 57-2016, being a bylaw to adopt amendment number 7 to the Town of Saugeen Shores Local Official Plan 90-2012, affecting all lands within the Town of Saugeen Shores, is hereby read a first, second, and third time, and finally passed and sealed this 9th day of May 2016. Any questions or comments? Councillor Minaj.
So, working through the legislation, and I did ask Linda, the clerk, about the application of this act, and it's like it goes around in circles. I asked if we could just state that we would follow the provincial law and the regulations under this act. Linda said to me that we couldn't do that until we passed pieces of it or explained pieces of it in our official plan and our rezoning for our comprehensive zoning bylaw. There's a lot of detail in here. There's detail that goes into inspections, checking that people don't have criminal records. The detail is more than I want to discuss with you tonight. My question is, has our legal department reviewed this act, this Ontario Act, and then advised that we can just take these sections and do nothing else with the rest?
I don't think our legal department. I think the Bruce County Planning Department has done this as a housekeeping item to change some of the terminology that was in our official plan. So the act is perfectly legal. The legislature has passed it. This is just recognizing that some of the wording in our official plan did not coincide correctly with the new or revised act. Okay. Any further comments? All in favor? Opposed, if any? The next item is rezoning for a Child Care Early Years update, and it's been moved by Vice Deputy Mayor Huber, seconded by Councillor Minaj, that bylaw 58-2016, being a bylaw to amend zoning bylaw number 75-2006, being the comprehensive zoning bylaw for the Town of Saugeen Shores, affecting all lands within the Town of Saugeen Shores, is hereby read a first, second, and third time, and finally passed and sealed this 9th day of May 2016. Questions or comments to this? Councillor Minaj.
Thank you. So as a second of the motion, I guess I'm in a conflicted position. I shouldn't have seconded the bylaw motion if I'm not in favor of supporting it tonight, correct? I'm good? All right.
Fine.
Thank you.
Any further comments? All in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried. So the next item then is to stop up and close a portion of Eckford Avenue. Bylaw. Excuse me again. I'm going to have a drink here. It's been moved by Councillor Grace, seconded by Councillor Dave Mayette, that bylaw 59-2016, Being a bylaw to stop up and close to public traffic that part of Eckford Avenue on Registered Plan 318, more particularly identified as Plan 1 on Plan 3R 9805, is hereby read a first, second, and third time, and finally passed and sealed this 9th day of May 2016. Comments to this? Vice Deputy Mayor Huber.
Thank you. I'd like to amend the motion so it's just first and second reading. So it was to give time for the owners of the property to consult with the lawyer and work through the process.
I think that's, sorry for interrupting, Diane, but I think that is going to be dealt with in the encroachment agreement, so I believe it has been amended so that item number 13, we're only going to give first and second reading to the encroachment agreement, the property, and that's, I think.
So we're good with that.
Yeah, I think we're good with that, Diane. Okay? Sorry, Vice Deputy Mayor Huber. Any further comments? All in favor? Opposed, if any? So now this is 12. Just on here. Number 11. Okay. It's sale of Eckford Avenue, right? Yes. So this has been moved by Councillor Matheson, seconded by Deputy Mayor Charbonneau, that bylaw 60-2016 being a bylaw to authorize the sale of part Eckford Avenue on Registered Plan 318, more particularly described as Part 1 on Plan 3R-9805, to Stuart Eric Kloss and Margaret Irene Kloss, is hereby read a first, second, and third time, and finally passed and sealed this 9th day of May 2016. Questions or comments? Councillor Dave Mayette.
Can somebody explain the relationship between this one, 60 and 62, the encroachment agreement for Kloss? Are they related? It seems like we're selling a road allowance and then we're authorizing an encroachment onto a road allowance.
Yeah, we've part of the process is we close it. We close the road and then we sell it. And then this particular one has an unusual situation where there's already an existing building on it, which we will be dealing with in number 13, the encroachment agreement. You want to speak to it?
Yeah, that is correct, Larry. This is a corner lot, so we're selling part of Eckford Avenue, and they're encroaching on part of Copway. The encroachment agreement is for Copway.
Just for your information, Eckford Avenue, there's been a number of that's not mean we're closing Eckford Avenue. There's just portions of it. There's been a number of sales because there was a very wide piece of property there that the town did not need or use, so we have sold those pieces along Eckford. This particular one's just a little different than some of the other ones.
Okay.
Okay? Yep. So this is the next one, then this is the deeming, sorry. This is the deeming lot 24, Plan 318. It's been moved by Vice Deputy Mayor Huber and second by Councillor Maj. Sorry, okay, all in favor of the last one. Opposed, if any, that's carried. So this next one is the deeming lots of 24 and Plan 318. It's been moved by Vice Deputy Mayor Huber, seconded by Councillor Minaj, that bylaw 61-2016. Being a bylaw, deeming lot 24, Plan 318, Town of Saugeen Shores, being PIN number 33251-025 LT, not to be a lot on a registered plan of subdivision, is hereby read a first and second time this 9th day of May 2016. Questions or comments? All in favor? Opposed, if any, that's carried. So, and this is the encroachment agreement for this particular lot. This is moved by Councillor Madison and seconded by Councillor Mike Myatt. That bylaw 62-2016, being a bylaw to authorize the entering into of an encroachment agreement with Stuart Eric Kloss and Margaret Irene Kloss, is hereby read a first and second time this 9th day of May 2016. Comments, questions? All in favor? Opposed, if any, that's carried. And number 14, last but not least, is authorize a lease with Harbor Light Restaurant. It's been moved by Deputy Mayor Charbonneau, second by Councillor Madison, that bylaw 63-2016, being a bylaw to authorize an agreement with Thomas and Joan Johnson for the Harbor Light Restaurant, is hereby read a first, second, and third time, and finally passed and sealed this 9th day of May 2016. Questions or comments? Councillor Mike Myatt.
I want to first of all say I said with Mr. Mann's presentation, I think the Johnsons do a wonderful job. This has never been a question about whether or not they're doing a good job at the Harbor Light, whether we're going to close the business or have them stay open. I've had an upteen number of people contact me why I voted the way I did at the last meeting. I stand by that decision. I feel just as strong about it tonight, if not stronger, about how I voted at the last meeting. I guess I suppose if I'm looking at a restaurant operator, I ask myself, I go into a restaurant with my wife, and first thing we do, we get off to the washroom to wash our hands. And I guess from a health and safety perspective, I don't understand why any restaurant owner, I've talked to some restaurant owners in town about this, why any restaurant owner would not want to have washrooms inside the restaurant facility, first of all. I don't quite understand that part. I want to talk a little bit about the information that was presented 2 weeks ago, because I wouldn't be fair to myself, to people who talked to me about this, if I didn't talk a little bit about the mention of an encroachment agreement at the last meeting. I don't think easement agreement was mentioned, but encroachment agreement was mentioned. I've checked into it. I also talked to the former CAO and the former mayor. There was no encroachment agreement. They couldn't find the paperwork because there wasn't an encroachment agreement. And I get concerned, I guess, when the information is presented at the 12th hour, like I think it was at the last meeting, that decisions are made sometimes without all of the accurate information, in my view. That's my opinion. I take a look at the negotiation that took place, I think in good faith. I think in good faith between our mayor and our CAO and our Director of Community Services sat down with the Johnson family, fine family, do a wonderful job, and in good faith negotiated an agreement that called for an addition of a washroom, as part of their facility. And I guess the question I have, and I have a couple more comments after I ask this question of our Director of Community Services, Jane, was there discussion with the Johnson family about building a washroom facility as part of your negotiations? And did that discussion take place? Did they agree to constructing a washroom facility, is my question? I need to clear this in my own mind based on how I voted at the last meeting.
There's been several discussions about the washroom facility, initiating from our previous agreement that we just finalized, the 5-year agreement. It was part of that agreement as well that ended in 2015.
So it was in the last 5-year agreement that they were to have constructed a washroom.
Correct.
That didn't happen. So I guess I just get concerned when I think there was a good negotiation happen. I've just heard that there was an agreement that the washrooms were to have been built, and I'm hearing it. 2 weeks ago, information. I think at the 12th hour that there potentially was an encroachment agreement. There wasn't. There was no paperwork. And the other thing, a comment I wanted to make, and I talked to earlier in the meeting about the boaters. They pay their fair share, and I was hoping it wasn't becoming a boater situation versus Harbor Light Restaurant, because I think there's both services are very good services, and when we talk about shutting down, we talked about this at the last meeting. There's been no discussion about shutting down public washrooms. Once, if and when the washrooms are ever constructed at Harbor Light. And this motion is probably going to be approved this evening. I get that part. There's no doubt enough support around the table to have it supported. But the last comment I wanted to make, I guess I look at the condo development, and I look at First Base Restaurant, and I look at the train station agreement, which, by the way, is coming to this table the end of December. And I'm sure there's going to be things asked of the train station operators, and I'm hoping that negotiation goes well. But I think that incumbent upon this council to allow ourselves to seek out partnership dollars for the upgrading, beautification, betterment of our Port Elgin waterfront. We're about to spend, well, we have $1.3 million as a placemat to do some washing work at the south end, some parking lot work, some entrance work, and some promenade work perhaps. So we're investing significant dollars, and I think it'd be nice, and I hope we can ask any of our leaseholders at the Port Elgin waterfront to invest with us. I don't think it's an unfair request. So, I mean, I voted against the motion last week because I still think it's not a bad thing to have a washroom facility inside a restaurant. Around the province of Ontario, tell me how many restaurants don't have washrooms. And so I want to make those comments tonight. I met with a fair number of members of the public who think that they should be done, and I said, well, I'll put those thoughts on the table and my own thoughts, and this is not about not supporting the Johnsons with Harbour Light. I mean, there are stories about Harbour Light, we're closing down and we open for business, and nothing to do with that. Nothing to do with not supporting Tom and Joan, who I know very well. They do a wonderful job. It's just that I'm just not convinced that all of the information presented 2 weeks ago. My last point, there was a staff, no, I'm just about finished, Mr. Mayor. There was a staff report in December that this council approved, and it talks about extending the Harbour Light restaurant by 1 year to December 2016. The last line in the report is, once the washrooms are completed, then staff would enter into negotiation with Mr. and Mrs. Johnson for a longer term agreement, the new 5 years. So, like we talked about this in December and gave staff approval to continue on with the negotiations. So I think it was all done in good faith. And to pull the plug, 2 weeks ago on something that I think had been approved, according to Jane, there was discussions about them drafting plans and getting the washrooms done. I didn't think it was unfair to ask them to put some washrooms inside their restaurant.
Okay, any further comments? Councilman Hodge.
Okay, so 2 weeks ago we had 11th or 12th hour information that said, and I took it in good faith, that the CAO of the former municipality of town of Port Elgin and the mayor at the time both said that these washrooms were provided in lieu of an expansion of the Harbour Master's office and the washroom expansion office, which took away washrooms from the Harbour Light restaurant. And in good faith, I changed my vote because for years I have been on the waterfront committee and now on council saying that they needed to provide washrooms inside the Harbour Light for the very good reasons that Mike just spoke to and were presented by staff. Only to hear now, at 2 weeks later, that there is no credibility in the former CAO and the former mayor of the municipality of Port Elgin ever saying that there was an agreement. And I recalled at the last meeting of this council asking that the mayor and the CAO interview the former mayor and the former CAO of the municipality of Port Elgin to find out if they would attest to the statement that that was the deal done back in the day. So I changed my vote 2 weeks ago, and it ended up being a 5-4 difference, not necessarily my vote, but it ended up being a 5-4 difference that said we're not going to ask them to put washrooms in the building. Only to hear now that maybe I have to change my vote again because somebody is saying that now that the information given 2 weeks ago is incorrect. I'm having difficulty with this, Mr. Mayor.
Vice Steph Huber.
Thank you. I just encourage everybody to go back to December. We had a report before us that was about an existing lease that included various items. One of those items was that by the end of that lease, there would have been a facility built within the restaurant. I really don't think we should get in the habit of just having agreements and then not being willing to stand by them. So I'm okay with the way I voted last time, and I still feel the same way again this time.
Councillor Grace.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess the information that Councillor Mayat just presented indicated that there was no written agreement. But I find myself wondering about what the historical facts are. Was there a verbal agreement that, yes, doesn't hold a lot of legal water, but I guess I would like clarification on exactly what happened back then. And I don't know if we can find that information out, but to me, that's missing.
It's very unlikely we'll find that. It's Councillor Dave Mayat.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I listened to Councillor Mayat's talk over there, and he stopped himself short of saying that the information that was presented 2 weeks ago was not true. And I have since spoken again with the former CAO and with the former mayor, both of whom reiterated their position that, and not only their position that the washrooms existed and were removed at the bequest of the town so that the harbor master's building could be constructed, and you can clearly see that with the layout. And further to that, there's evidence of it, because if you go into the back of the Harbor Light restaurant, those 2 washrooms the rough-ins are still there from where the washrooms existed. So there's physical evidence that washrooms existed in the Harbor Light restaurant for the exclusive use of their patrons. Those washrooms were removed coincident with the building of the harbor master's office and the new washrooms. Ever since then, it's been a perfectly good arrangement between the town and the Johnsons and the patrons and the boaters and everybody else to use those washrooms. And I have yet to hear what has changed. This conversation of boater exclusive keeps creeping back into the conversation, and it wasn't something that I brought up, but if I hear on one side, I hear there are no plans to close those public washrooms to any exclusive group or to include or exclude any group. Yet on the other hand, I hear the boaters are important and they pay lots of money and they deserve better and they should have their own washroom. So I don't know. I had a motion that was removed from the agenda I'll leave it at that, that was asking that very question. What has changed? And if there are no plans to close that public washroom, then in my mind, and in many people's mind, because I too have been approached by a great number of people over the past 2 weeks, in my mind, what has changed? Or what is going to change that is necessitating this additional facility mere feet from where the facilities are now that have been used and approved by the town, by the administration, by the health board for going on 2 decades? I don't see any change that has necessitated this. And with regards to, I'm not going to talk to the previous 5-year lease agreement because that is water under the bridge, so to speak. The current agreement was one that said you will build a washroom. You get a 5-year lease, but it only lasts for 1 year unless you build a washroom. It was kind of in my mind, a sort of a blackmail agreement, just from not taking a side of either party, but it was an agreement that says you will do this in order to get the rest of your lease agreement. And how does a business operate on a horizon of 1 year, knowing that they are not going to necessarily get their the rest of their 5-year agreement unless they do. I mean, is that the way we operate? We put businesses under the gun that way? I don't think so. And I just want to, and my notice of motion that was on the agenda that was removed yesterday was asking that simple question: what has changed? And I've yet to have that explained to me.
Well,
what has been...
Okay, I think we can satisfy this by just getting back to the main motion here
Let's get on
and
with it.
voting on it,
Okay.
because I think we can, I mean, we've been in a lot of discussion about this, and I sense it's caused some tension around the table, unnecessarily so, I think. But, the intent, clearly, I want to be very clear, the intent is to see that Joan and Tom can operate this business as they have in the past. And that is what I think we're voting on tonight, is to extend a 5-year lease. I think we've had enough discussion on it, and I'm going to call the question: all in favor of extending this lease for 5 years without the condition of a washroom? All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. So, the last item then is the confirmatory bylaw. And it's been moved by Councillor Minaj, second by Councillor Grace, that bylaw 64-2016, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Town of Saugeen Shores, is hereby read a first, second, and third time, and finally passed and sealed this 9th day of May 2016. All in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried. And it's been moved by Councillor Mike Myatt, second by Councillor Madison, that this regular council meeting of May the 9th, 2016, hereby adjourn at 9:31 p.m. All in favor? That's carried.